All right, let's talk about risk management. It's one of those terms you hear all the time, right? But what does it actually mean to manage something that's, well, unpredictable? Let's kick things off with a simple question.
I mean, really think about that for a second. What if you could get all the good stuff? All the reward from an investment or a business move, with zero, and I mean zero chance of anything going wrong. Sounds amazing, doesn't it?
Now, well, sorry to burst that bubble, but that's just not how the world works. This right here is the fundamental trade-off at the very heart of finance, business, pretty much life. And it all boils down to one of the most basic principles you'll ever hear. There is no return without risk. The two are they are permanently tied together. So the real game isn't about trying to dodge risk completely. It's about getting smart about it. It's about understanding it and managing it. Okay, so this is a really crucial distinction to make. On one side, you've got risk-taking. That's the action, right? That's you stepping up to the plate, swinging the bat, and taking on a risk because you're hoping to generate a return. But on the other side, you've got risk management. And that is the strategy. See, it's not about avoiding risk altogether. It's about deciding which risks are worth taking and how to handle them. It's all about picking the right level of risk for what you're trying to achieve.
So how do the pros actually do this? How do big organizations get a handle on all this uncertainty? Well, it's not just guesswork. There's a real, structured process behind it all.
What you're looking at here is a cycle. It's this continuous loop that just keeps going. You start by trying to identify what could go wrong. Then you measure just how exposed you are to those things. After that, you assess your options. What can you actually do about it? From there, you formulate a strategy. And here's the kicker, the part that makes it a loop. You evaluate how that strategy is working. And what does that do? It feeds right back into identifying new risks or seeing how the old ones have changed. It never, ever stops.
All right, let's dive into a concept that risk managers are absolutely obsessed with. Because you see, not all losses are created equal. It's critical to know the difference between something you can plan for and something that could completely wipe you out.
Let's talk about expected loss. Think of it like this: a big grocery store. They know that a certain small percentage of their fresh produce is going to spoil before they can sell it. It happens every week. They can practically set their watch by it. It's an anticipated kind of average cost of doing business. So what do? They just build it right into their budget. It's not a surprise. It's just part of the plan.
But unexpected loss, that is a whole different beast. This is the real danger. This is what risk management is all about. So, back to our grocery store. What happens if a massive citywide power outage hits and all of the refrigerated and frozen food is ruined? That's not a small percentage. That is a catastrophic loss, way, way above the average. That's the kind of thing that can put you out of business. And that's what risk management is there to protect against.
Here's a simpler way to think about it. Expected loss is like a predictable speed bump in the road. You know it's there, you see it coming, so you just slow down for it. No big deal. But unexpected loss? That's the sudden tidal wave that comes out of nowhere and threatens to wash the entire road away. You can budget for a bump. You need a real, serious strategy for a tidal wave.
Okay, so we've got a handle on the difference between expected and unexpected loss. But where do these things even come from? Let's do a quick tour of the different families of risk, the stuff that keeps managers up at night. So here they are, the major families of risk. Each one of these is a unique flavor of uncertainty, and each one needs its own way of being managed. We're going to touch on a few of the big ones, starting with the one most people think of first.
First up, market risk. This is pretty straightforward. It's the risk that your investments lose value simply because the whole market takes a dive. Think about it. You could own a fantastic portfolio of stocks in great companies, but if there's a broad market crash, your portfolio's value is probably going down anyway. It's the risk you take just by being in the game.
Then we have credit risk. This one is super fundamental. It's the risk of not getting paid back money that you're owed. For a bank, that's pretty obvious, right? It's the risk a company defaults on a huge loan. But it applies to almost any business. It could just be the risk that one of your biggest clients goes bankrupt, and you never see the money for that massive invoice.
Next up is liquidity risk. Now this one is sneaky. It's the risk where you're not actually poor. On paper, you might have a ton of valuable assets, but you can't turn those assets into cold hard cash fast enough to pay your bills. It's basically a cash flow crisis, even if you look rich on your balance sheet.
And finally, let's talk about operational risk. This is all the stuff that can go wrong on the inside of your company.
It covers the whole shebang, from a critical computer server crashing right before a product launch to a simple human typo that ends up costing millions. It's the risk of your own machinery, your own processes, breaking down.
Okay, so we've got all these different kinds of risks floating around. The last big piece of this puzzle is to understand how modern companies try to look at all of them, not as separate problems, but as one big, interconnected challenge.
You see, for a long time, companies managed risk in what we call silos. The credit risk people were over here, the market risk people were over there, and the operations team was in another building entirely. And guess what? They didn't really talk to each other. The problem with that is that risks don't stay in their silos. A problem in one area can easily spill over and cause a disaster in another. And if nobody's looking at the big picture, you end up with some really dangerous blind spots.
So the solution to this silo problem has a name: Enterprise Risk Management, or ERM for short. And this is a total game changer. Instead of those separate silos, ERM takes a holistic, top-down approach. It gives leaders a single 360-degree view of all the risks across the entire organization. This lets them see how everything is connected and make much smarter decisions and trade-offs.
But let's push this idea one step further. What if every single company out there became a master of ERM? I mean, what if every bank, every hedge fund, every corporation managed its own risk perfectly? Could the system still go wrong?
The answer is a big, scary yes. And that brings us to systemic risk. This is the big one. This is the risk that the failure of just one important institution can trigger a chain reaction, like dominoes falling, that threatens to bring down an entire industry or even the entire global financial system. Why? Because in today's world, everything is just so deeply interconnected.
And that leaves us with a huge, critical question to think about. It's really the ultimate challenge for anyone in modern finance. If every single institution manages its own risk perfectly, can the whole system still collapse? That interconnectedness creates a risk that's just bigger than any one company can ever hope to control on its own. Something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in.